Shabbat. Thank you.
So there are lots of things we do and don't do on Purim. One thing that we don't do on Purim is that we don't sing a special set of psalms that is usually called the Hallel, which we sing on literally all the other Jewish holidays. And the reason that we're not singing this, that the rabbis are giving us, one among the many, many reasons, of course, is that reading the Megillah replaces singing the set of psalms. Reading the Megillah and retelling the story of Esther brings about just the same sense of gratitude and festivity and joy than it does to sing a couple of psalms, one after the other. So this service is a little shorter because we're not singing so many psalms, but we're diving right into the evening service on page 146.
146. If you are able, please rise. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed. And I forgot to ask at the beginning if you all are okay with me taking my mask off. I did take a COVID test. Thank you. And I had it in January and all of that. So. Okay. We are going to continue on page 148. Let's read together in English, or actually on 149. Let's read together in English the second paragraph. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, my sibling, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, my sibling, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai Hamari v'Aravi. Page 150. Ahavat olam, Ahavat olam, Ahavat olam, Ahavtanu, Ahavat olam, Ahavat olam. Love אהבת עולם, אהבת עולם, אהבתנו, 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 אדוני אלוהינו, ברוך אתה, אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם. את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר נותנים את זכרם היום על קרבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. Page 158. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kol 160. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Ushmor Tzeiteinu at the indent. Uvoeinu L'chaim U'shalom Ve'ata ve'adolam Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. I really love it when you all sing. Page 162. Vishamru Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Ledorotam Berit Olam Vishamru Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Ledorotam Berit Olam Beini uvein Bnei Yisrael Oti leolam Oti leolam Vishamru Bnei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Ledorotam Berit Olam Yisheshet Yamim Asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz Vishamru Bnei Yisrael et hashabbat La'asot et hashabbat Ledorotam Berit Olam Uvayom hashvi Shabbat v'yinafash Shabbat v'yinafash Shabbat v'yinafash Vishamru Bnei Yisrael et hashabbat La'asot et hashabbat Ledorotam Berit Olam. So, starting on page 164, we're going to go into a silent Amidah. And this is just time for you to either read through the Amidah or just take a few moments and meditate and just get back into your body and kind of just get back in touch with yourself after a week of busyness and doing. And this is the time for us on Shabbat to be human beings, not human doings. And I didn't come up with that originally. But yeah, start on page 164 and you can choose your own adventure here. But let's all sing the introductory prayer together. And please rise if you're able. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha Adonai Open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Ose shalom bimroma huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimroma huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimroma huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimroma huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimroma huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimroma huya ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
Everything is set. Times are set. We put them in our calendar a long time ago. We rehearsed and trained and prepared and we put down payments. for the roles, for processes, for moves, and for encounters. We dreamed of the future so long that it seemed real already. And we knew for sure what would happen. We knew for sure who we are. And then one day, suddenly, everything is different. I'm not sure what it was for each single one of you. I'm also not sure how often that happened to you. But I'm almost sure that each one of you has an answer to this question. What turned your life upside down? For some, it is sickness. And for some, it's divorce or separation. For some, it might have been a suddenly necessary move or career change. For some, it was the moment when we left our parents' house. And for others, it's the moment when our kids left our house. For some, it's a phone call, a letter, or a test result. For some, it's because someone suddenly showed up who we thought would never enter our life again. But whatever it was, it changed our lives. Purim, with all its shrillness and drinking and charades and games and plays, comes with one important mitzvah that we often overlook. The first sentence of the 9th chapter that we completely omitted in the translation that we just read begins with one phrase, V'nahafochu, and everything was turned upside down. Now there in the book of Esther, what was turned upside down was the poor, the lot, the destiny of the Jewish people. Instead of being slaughtered helplessly, they turned into a brutal war machine. Instead of being the political underdogs, they became part of the ruling elites of the Persian Empire. And instead of being a forgotten minority of history, they made history and shaped the calendar of their people for all times to come. The rabbis of the following centuries make many interesting suggestions on how we should observe and reenact this experience of V'nahafochu, everything was turned upside down. Teachers should let students teach for this one day of the year on Purim. Rabbis should let congregants preach. Men should let women make decisions. Unheard, an interesting experiment. Children should set the rules for their parents. Whatever it took, Purim should be celebrated as a day where everything is turned upside down. Take a mask. Take on this character. Don't be shy. Just try it out. And the rabbis felt so free to do this because they knew one thing about human nature. In the end, we all go back to who we are. In the end, the world just always goes back to what it was. What kind of a strange lesson is that? It's actually a pretty important one. The lesson slightly undermines the narrative of the book of Esther, but it also really supports us in our lives as we live them. It's our narrative of us as unique people to whom some things happen, but who stay in spite of all the stuff that happens to us. Just us, no matter what hits us. On Purim we play. We ask, and we are asked by our tradition to become a little freer, a little wilder, a little more generous, a little more open than we usually are. And then, and this is also what tradition teaches us, we just become ourselves again and continue our lives. Maybe one experience richer, maybe having discovered something new about the world or ourselves, but still nevertheless as ourselves. Here are two interesting thoughts that came to me thinking about this year. One of them is that Purim, 2 years ago, marks the day when many of us living in the Jewish calendar had their first, last big life gathering. And if you were already a member of Beth Shalom 2 years ago, then this day marks the inauguration of Rabbi Mark Kula as the congregation's rabbi. And it also marks the day where many of you have seen him for the last time in person. And that's quite a story if you think about it. It also marks the contrast between lots of people eating together cookies, pizzas, loud music, drinking, lots of people, and then a slightly quieter home or hometown-based time that many of us have been living through for the last 2 years of our lives in an upside-down world. And it seems right now that this time slowly is coming to an end. And many people ask, what have we learned? What are we going to take with us from these 2 years where we made experiences that we never thought we would make? When we suddenly realize that people who are athletic and young can become really sick and sometimes even die. When people who always thought that they loved the life of the party realize that they actually like to stay at home in their pajamas. And when people who discovered that they like to be really busy realize that it's amazing if you can have a family dinner with your people every single day of the week. And I think we all realize a similar thing. Slowly we go back to old patterns. And we can remember what the rabbi said. It's okay. It's okay if we don't always tear up when we see our friends again. It's okay when some things just return to how they were before, just normal. It's okay when we can leave the days of v'nahafochu and crazy emotions behind us and just realize, this day-to-day that we had before, it's still there. And then there's a different set of v'nahafochu stories. For some of us, actually, the years of COVID haven't even changed so much. In spite of all the political and cultural shifts and changes and dramas, many of us have been able to preserve their lives as they have been. And it wasn't too dramatic. And we should really be grateful for that. I don't really belong in this category. And with me, many people actually didn't. The last 2 years have brought to me, or have made possible for me, a wedding and a beginning marriage, 2 pregnancies, 1 cross-country move, and 1 cross-Atlantic family merger, a change of careers, COVID itself, lots of pretty bad flus, and now scars on my foot that I'm probably going to have for the rest of my life. In addition to the ones that I got when I had this baby. These last years actually have changed my life. They actually did mark my body. They have changed Daniel's name and our sleeping patterns and the things we're busy ourselves with throughout the day. And now we have this little person living with us who wants to talk about tractors all the time. It's not even exaggerated when I say that these years of my life, and sometimes of the life of other people too, they were actual Purim years. They changed everything. People moved from big cities to smaller towns. People who were perfectly functioning before are grateful if they just get their stuff done halfways. People changed their lives from working 9 to 5 in an office to a much more flexible and open lifestyle. And some people changed their center of gravity altogether, from their careers to their families and friends, and questions of longevity and sustainability. And still, are we really different? I don't think so. I think our voices are the same. The people we love are the same. The books we like and the music we like and the food we eat is still the same. Maybe we're just a little older, but we're still us, and we will be in our lives forever. And the rabbis in Purim say, that's a good thing. Just fall back, and you're good enough, as you have been, and as you are. So this moment of Purim is just an invitation. If you could imagine for a moment, dream, if you could change absolutely everything, what if? What would you do? If you were someone different, lived somewhere different, lived a completely different life. Purim says just, play with it, think with it, have a thought experiment. Maybe take up another role for 1 or 2 days, see how that feels like. And then, when you have thought about what that would be, different chapter, different life, that maybe you can see one thing, that you're nothing but yourself, that your life is good enough the way it is, and that just like that, without any heroism, you're good enough as you are. Shabbat Shalom.
I don't have a page number for Misha Beirach. 380. Thank you. 371. Okay, and I invite you to share the names of anybody you're thinking about for healing.
Norm Dusenberry, Linda Jacobson, Jessica Leash, do you have anybody who's in need of healing?
Misheberach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
There's an interesting fact about the mourner's Kaddish. The mourner's Kaddish is said by the ones who mourn, and not necessarily for the ones who died. It's part of a healing process. And that's why we decided to put the Misheberach right before the mourner's Kaddish. I think it's on page 589, but I'm not sure.
598.
There's one thing about the Misheberach that is easily to be overlooked. But we're not just asking for healing. We're asking for refuah shlema, for complete healing. Because we actually believe that that's possible. We believe that we can live through pain, through sickness, and even through mourning, and arrive at a moment where we can look at ourselves again and say, I am whole. I've healed. I'm a little different now, but my life is complete again. There's no more hole. So as we're rising for the mourner's Kaddish, and our congregation still thinks, what are the people who have gone from us during the last month of our lives? The Bertucci family, the Zimmerman family, the Mansfield family, the Ramsey family. Please rise together so that we can heal together, look at each other, and know that whatever hits any single one of us, we stand together and we heal together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma dibrachi ute ve'yamlich malchute b'chayechol yom echol u'b'chaye l'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'b'zman kariv ve'imru amen. יהא שמי רב המבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילה כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלום רבה משמיא וחי עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
And as you're already holding hands, don't let go. And if you're not holding hands already, then grab a hand or just smile at your neighbor. And if you're not in the mood for smiling, then just smile at yourself internally. And just have this moment of like being in community and still loving each other. And having that moment, the touchy-feely moment of every single service for you to take home. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha vichuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and protect you. May God support you and enlighten you. May God shelter you. And may God let you walk in peace. And I see the Kiddush cup in the middle. I don't know if you all have Kiddush cups. Do you all have Kiddush cups?
Could somebody grab the Kiddush cups and pass them out? Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Don't take that.
The dark one is grape juice, and the light one is wine. I should have said that before, huh? It's sparkling grape juice.
Donated by Carly, who's in, I think, California at Joshua Tree, looking at Joshua trees. But who wanted us to have something festive on that festive day. And the candles, by the way, are donated by Marjorie. Ross Beth of Shabbos Candles for the next door space. You do have your Kiddush cup. Let's raise our arms and bless this moment in time. ויחולו השמיים והארץ בכל פעם. ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה. וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את השביעי. אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר גידלנו ושבת כי הוא יום תחילה נקראי קודש זכר לתחיית מצרים כי באנו ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים ושבת ואהבת רצון הנחתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש
So glad they haven't changed all the numbers. It's still at 7.
We have some announcements.
I'm sure there are.
The announcements are, it's time for the concert.
Do you have announcements?
Yes, the announcements are, it's time for the concert.
So, Torah study tomorrow morning, and we are now going to move into a concert. Yes. Oh, actually, I have one more song that's going to be a segue into the concert. So the concert. What? Yeah. The concert is called Oi Mama, Songs and Stories About Jewish Mothers. And it's going to have a lot of Yiddish songs. So I found a Purim Yiddish song that I thought would be a good kind of transition moment. Heint is Purim Brider, Sister Yom Tov Groß, lo mir singen Lieder, gehen von Haus zu Haus, lach mor Halleluch, Yom Tov Lamach, kins Kinder gedenken dem Nest, singt de Brüder, lag singt, an freilich und spricht, dam teieren Tag nicht vergesst. Heint is Purim Brider, Sister Yom Tov Groß, lo mir singen Lieder, gehen von Haus zu Haus. Ach, mor Halleluch, Yom Tov Lamach, kins Kinder gedenken dem Nest. Singt Brüder, lag singt, tanzt freilich und springt, da es dem teieren Tag nicht vergesst. Ei, 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 ja, ba, 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 ja, ba, 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 ei, ja, ba, da, 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 ei, ja, ba, 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 ja, da, 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 ja, da, 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 da. Shabbat Shalom. So you are welcome to stay. You're also welcome to slip out if that's what's in your plan for the night. But you're really going to miss out. No, I'm just kidding. There's no guilt tripping here. Yes, we are going to have a transition. And it would be super helpful if you all could just turn your chairs to face the bima. Thank you. So grab another Hamantash, have another margarita, eat some more. And thank you, Rabbi Sonia.
But is it like that, like the way that that lead is manufactured?
Oh, that I don't know. I don't know. Well,
Oh, how did you do? You got something close?
I just fixed it. For a
Yeah,
moment.
I think that was
No,
manufactured.
well, the commandment is in Exodus to keep an eternal light. I don't think that I don't think there was any specific instructions like for the Mishkan here.
Well, I just wonder how a light like that could be eternal.
Well, the
Or is it a
electricity
really,
is
really,
always
really
eternal.
long burning coal or something?
Well,
So they just had to keep pouring the oil.
right.
That was what they, the Levites did.
Yeah, well, with flame you can have it eternal.
Well, there's actually there's two commandments. There's the Ner Tamid, which is what this is, and there is the eighth Tamid, which is an eternal fire that the priest kept in the temple. And that, of course, we don't do anymore. But still there. So there's two fires. There's two lights. One is a light, and the other is a fire.
What do you think the odds are that the song is flame?
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, well, I mean,
We all read the same book, you know.
the too many unknown soldier, like that sin that carries on.
Fire has, well, put it another way. Fire has caught people's imaginations.
But it keeps shooting fire. It works. I like this concert. It was one I've seen it partly here and partly in retirement. Right? How you've done it here and you've done it in retirement.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also did it in Florida once. Yeah.
Cute. Oh, yeah.
The thing about sitting straight on is you don't have to look flat.
This one's not on the thing? No. Okay. Yeah. And I forgot, do we start with this? Yeah. Or do something? Okay. Whenever you're ready, just okay.
Of things I should be thankful for, I've had a goodly share. And as I sit here in the comfort of a cozy chair, my fancy takes me to a humble east side tenement, 3 flights up in the rear to where my childhood days were spent. It wasn't much like paradise, but mid the dirt and all, there sat the sweetest angel, one that I fondly call my Yiddish mama. I need her more than ever now. My Yiddish mama, I'd love to kiss that wrinkled brow. I long to hold her hand once more as in days gone by, and ask her to forgive me for things I did that made her cry. How few were her pleasures. She never cared for fashion styles. Her jewels and her treasures, she found them in her baby's smiles. Oh, I know that I owe what I am today to that dear little lady so old and gray, to that wonderful Yiddish mama of mine. I see her at her daily task in morning's early light, her willing hands forever toiling far into the night. I hear the quaint old lullabies that haunt my memory, each plaintive note, each tender word, a mother's prayer for me. What have I that I would not give to cross the trails of time, back to those childhood bygones, back to you, Mama mine. A jiddische Mama, sie macht nach Süds die ganze Welt. A jiddische Mama, oi weh, wie bitter, wenn sie quält. Ich darf doch danken Gott, was hol dir noch bei sich. Ihr weißt nicht, wie treurig sie wird, wenn sie geht weg zu gehen. In Wasser und Feuer wollt sie gelaufen für ihr Kind. Nicht halten ihr Teier, das ist gewiss die größte sind. Oh, I know that I owe what I am today to that dear little lady so old and gray, to that wonderful Yiddish mama. Thank you. So welcome to Oi Mama, songs and stories about Jewish mothers. In the program tonight, you'll hear some classic Yiddish folk songs, you'll hear some original songs, and even an Irving Berlin kind of show tune kind of song that will all be woven together by stories about the women in my family. And through the stories and the songs, I hope that you could see yourself in some of these women, and maybe somebody that you love. Maybe you can see someone you love in some of these stories. I'm going to guess that probably most of you either have a Jewish mother or know a Jewish mother, or at least know some of the stereotypes about Jewish mothers, right? There are Jewish mothers probably, yes. I think there are, yes. I know that there are some Jewish mothers in the room. So we know some of the stereotypes, right? Nosy, worrying, overbearing, overfeeding. And of course, these traits sometimes apply to mothers in other cultures as well. But tonight we're going to delve into some of the things that make Jewish mothers the way they are. And through the stories and the songs, I hope to give you a broader picture of Jewish mothers and Jewish women in all of their complexities. So first I want to start by telling you about my great-grandmother. Her name was Annie Seinfeld. Yes, there is a relation. My great-grandmother Annie was first cousins with Jerry Seinfeld's great-grandfather. And so that makes me about Jerry Seinfeld's sixth cousin, although he doesn't know it. Cousin Jerry, he never writes, he never calls. My grandmother on my mom's side once wrote to Jerry Seinfeld, and she said, you know, you have family in Montreal if you ever want to meet. And he never wrote back. What a schmuck! Says my grandmother. So my great-grandmother Annie was born in 1902 in Poland, which is in an area that is now part of Ukraine. And she lived in a shtetl, a little Jewish village, like Fiddler on the Roof. And that's what her family did. They were peddlers, kind of like Tevye. They would go around the town and sell food and milk and things like that. And in the shtetls, the men and the women each had their roles. So the men were the breadwinners, and they studied Torah. And the women, they were responsible for maintaining a Jewish home and taking care of the children. They really kept things together. But unfortunately, Annie didn't have a mother around for a very long time. There was a lot of war, and unfortunately this really hits home today too, but there was a lot of, it was a very tumultuous time in that area, and Annie's mother was shot during World War I and killed, leaving Annie at the age of 14 to take care of her 6 siblings. Annie would walk 3 miles to go help hand out bread so that she could take home a loaf of bread for her family. And just to give you more of a context of what was happening in this region at the time, the Russian Jews were caught in the middle of a civil war, resulting in the loss of an estimated 100,000 Jewish lives. And when white Russian troops started capturing towns, they staged pogroms. So these are anti-Jewish riots. And there were murders of many, many Jews. And Annie's father was also almost killed during this time. The Russian troops came, and they were about to shoot Annie's father in front of her and her siblings. But Annie and her siblings threw their arms around the Russians' legs, and begged them to spare their father's life. And they did, and he lived. Their town was right next to a munitions base. And when the munitions base blew up, Annie's house caught on fire and was destroyed, along with the milk cow in the yard, leaving them without this source of nourishment and livelihood and sustenance. So they all went to live with a relative. There were 10 people living in one house together, and the conditions were very poor. There was not a lot of food. And unfortunately, this story is common. And as we know, almost every single shtetl was destroyed during the Holocaust. I forgot to mention that you have a program, or you should have a program, that has English translations of the Yiddish songs that you can follow along with. And it also has some pictures. The picture on the front is my great-grandmother on my father's side, and then right behind her on the right is my grandmother on my dad's side. Oh, thank you so much, Maggie.
If the rabbi was here, she would be doing this.
I think I had volunteered one of our teenagers, but he left. Anyway, so yes, that's the picture on the front. And then the first picture on the next page is Annie and her 3 children. And then on the last page, it's the 4 generations, me as a baby, my mom holding me, and her mom, and then Annie on the far right. And the very last picture is me and my mom. But we'll turn back to the first page of lyrics, and you can follow along with these next 2 songs. Brennt, briderlich brennt, uns Terrorem steht und Neppich brennt. Böse Winden mit ihr Gosen, reißen, brechen und zerblosen, starke noch die wilde Flammen, als Rumschein brennt. Und ihr steht und guckt aus sich mit verlegter Hand. Und ihr steht und guckt aus sich, unser Städtel brennt. Es brennt, brüderlich, es brennt. Hoi, unser Arm Städtel neppich brennt. So bin schon die Feuerzungen durchs ganze Städtel eingeschlungen und die Beise finden Hosen, unser Städtel brennt. Und ihr steht und guckt aus sich mit verlegter Hand. Und ihr steht und guckt aus sich, unser Städtel brennt. Bells, mein Städtel Bells, mein Himmel, wo ich hab meine kindische Jahre verbracht. Bells, mein Städtel Bells, in Urim, in Stäbele mit alle Kinderlach dort gelacht. Oi, jeden Schabbes pfleg ich, laufen dort mit der Trina gleich, zu sitzen unter den grünen Bäumen, leben bei dem Teich. Bells, mein Städtel Bells, mein Himmel, wo hab gehabt die schöne Halloimus. Thank you. You can clap. That's Lori Rosolowski on the piano. Annie wanted a better life, and her father wanted that for her too. He urged her to go to Canada, where she had a grandmother. But Annie's father was older, and he wasn't well, and he couldn't go with her, and Annie was really hesitant to leave him. But she decided to go, and she went with 2 of her siblings. The rest of her siblings either stayed in Europe and were never heard from again, or went to Palestine. And Annie cried on the ship to Canada for 3 days straight. Maybe you've been in a similar position, or maybe you can think of a family member who had to do this, who had to leave behind their home in hopes of a better life with no guarantee, really. So I want to dedicate the next song. It's called Rozinkes mit Mandelen, which means raisins and almonds, and it's another classic Yiddish folk song written in 1880. And I want to dedicate it to Annie as a lullaby, as she crossed over from her home and her family and everything she knew to an entirely new and unknown world. In dem Beis Hamikdash, in a winkel cheder, sitzt die Almona Bastion allein. Hier bin Jochid le wichtige Seder und singt ihm zum Schlafen a Liedele schön. Ai, lu, lu, lu. Unter jedes Wiegele steht a chlorweise Ziegele. Das Ziegele ist gefroren Handeln. Das wird sein dein Beruf. Rozinkes mit Mandeln. Schlaf, Jedele, schlaf. Und als du wirst reich, Jedele, sollst du sich dem Monen in dem Liedele. Rozinkes mit Mandeln. Das wird sein dein Beruf. Rozinkes mit Mandeln. Schlaf, Jedele, schlaf. Ai, lu. Thank you. Annie worked in a factory, and she learned English at night. And she hardly spoke any English. She really only spoke Yiddish, which is a combination of German and Hebrew and a little kind of a mashup of some Eastern European languages. And one of my favorite stories about Annie's life is that grandmother she went to live with in Canada had a friend. So the 2 bubbies, the 2 grandmothers, one day they got together, and the friend said, "Your granddaughter Annie, oh, she's such a nice girl. You know, she'd be perfect for my Isidore. The only problem is he's engaged." So the 2 grandmothers set up Annie and Isidore, and Isidore fell in love with Annie and broke off the engagement with the other woman. And one of the things I also love about their life is that they went out west. They went to Calgary, and Isidore started a shop called Western Outfitters, which is still around today, although not owned by my family anymore. So I kind of love that they were also Western pioneers in the way that I've also come west. Annie lived until she was 100 years old, and I was fortunate enough to meet her when I was a kid. I would go and visit her and sing to her. And my grandmother, Annie's daughter, says that Annie was very depressed through a lot of her life, but that she was so resilient because of everything she went through. Annie and Isidore had 3 children, as you'll see in the photo, the black and white photo on the first page. Phil, Lou, and Evelyn, who was my grandmother, and she's my last remaining grandparent. She's 94, and she lives in Montreal. And she's the one who told me all of these stories, and we're very close. So my grandmother, Evelyn, she tells me that she didn't have the option to go to university because there was no money. But she took a secretarial course, and she did go to Jewish school because that was a priority for her Jewish mother. Oifen pripechek borenta feierol und in Stubis Haus und der Rebbe lernt kleine Kinderlach dem Aleph Beis und der Rebbe lernt kleine Kinderlach dem Aleph Beis. Zetsche Kinderlach Gedenkst Teile, was ihr lernt da. Sagt ihr noch einmal und tag ihr noch einmal, kommet Aleph A. Sagt ihr noch einmal und tag ihr noch einmal, kommet Aleph A. Lernt Kinderlach, lernt mit Freude, lernt dem Aleph Beis. Glücklich ist der Jid, was kennt die Teure und das Aleph Beis. Glücklich ist der Jid, was kennt die Teure und das Aleph Beis. Zetsche Kinderlach, gedenkste Teile, was ihr lernt da. Sagt ihr noch einmal und tag ihr noch einmal, kommet Aleph A. Sagt ihr noch einmal und tag ihr noch einmal, kommet Aleph A. Als ihr Fettkinder dem Golle schleppen, oi gemutscht sein, sollt ihr von die äußerst keuch scheppen, guckt in sie rein. Sollt ihr von die äußerst keuch scheppen, guckt in sie rein. Zetsche Kinderlach, gedenkste Teile, was ihr lernt da. Sagt ihr noch einmal und tag ihr noch einmal, kommet Aleph A. Sagt ihr noch einmal und tag ihr noch einmal, kommet Aleph A. Thank you. I have a small request of Megan, one of those folks. I forgot my capo in my guitar case in my office. Could you grab the blue capo? It's the blue one is the one I need. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Oh, there's 2 guitar cases in there, though.
Do you have a CD, or is that a future plan is to make a CD? And if you do, will you let us know?
Yeah, I have 2 albums of original music. One of the songs I'm going to play in a few moments is on my second album. And I have not recorded these Yiddish songs, but they will be on YouTube for you to watch again later. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is being live streamed right now, and then the replay will be available on YouTube, hopefully like forever or so, give or take. But yeah, it would be interesting. It would be a fun project to record the Yiddish songs too.
And where are your CDs available?
There are some at the temple. There are some at the temple in the gift case. They're also available on iTunes and anywhere that you can listen to music online. So, yeah. Okay, so my grandmother was the only Jewish kid in her school in New Brunswick. She had a crush on a kid named Kenny Watson. Not such a Jewish name. She knew her parents would never let her date him because in those days and in her family, she was expected to be with somebody Jewish. And Annie never pressured her to marry a doctor or anybody of any certain profession. She just wanted her to be happy with a Jew. My other grandmother of blessed memory, her name was also Evelyn. This is Evelyn Eichmann. She was a little more stereotypical in the way that she'd call me and she'd say, "Hello, Amber, do you have a boyfriend? Why not? Hurry up, I'm 92, I can't wait forever." When I did have a boyfriend, one that happened to be Jewish, I told her thinking that she would be so excited. And she said, "Well, I hope he makes a good living." And of course, this is, all from love, right? Just her wanting me to be taken care of, and that's the way things were done in those days. And that grandmother was married when she was quite young. I think she was maybe 20 at the most. You'll see in this next song that back in the shtetl days, the respectable tradesmen were the tailors and the shoemakers, the rabbis. Actually, my dad's side, that family was also tailors. And this version has a bit of a twist at the end. And I found this twist very relevant to my own life. You'll see there's two characters in this song. There's the mother or the grandmother, whichever you want to think of her as, and then the daughter. Was willst du? A Schneider for a man, a Schneider for a man. A Schneider for a man will ich niet, kleidlich nähen kenn ich niet. Nimm sich a Stein, sitz allein und fein. Alle Mädel haben Chassene, nur ich bleib allein. Alle Mädel haben Chassene, nur ich bleib allein. Was willst du? A Schuster for a man, a Schuster for a man. A Schuster for a man will ich niet, schicken laten kenn ich niet. Sitz ich auf den Stein, Stillerheit und Wein. Alle Mädel haben Chassene, nur ich bleib allein. Alle Mädel haben Chassene, nur ich bleib allein. Was willst du? A raven for a man, a raven for a man. A raven for a man will ich niet, teuer lernen kenn ich niet. Sitz ich auf den Stein, Stillerheit und Wein. Alle Mädel haben Chassene, nur ich bleib allein. Alle Mädel haben Chassene, nur ich bleib allein. Was willst du? A klezmer for a man. A klezmer for a man. A klezmer for a man will ich doch. A klezmers Tochter bin ich doch. Steh ich auf den Dach und guck oben lach. Alle Mädel haben Chassene und ich mit sie gleich. Alle Mädel haben Chassene und ich mit sie gleich. Thank you. So, in case you missed it, the twist at the end was she decides, yes, the only person I want to be with is a musician.
Yeah.
I don't want the rabbi, I don't want the tailor, I want the musician. And, again, I think that the idea is that back in the day, women were expected to be taken care of by a man. And things have changed. And I, certainly am a proponent of women taking care of themselves if they can and want to. I have felt pressure from society to, settle down and do this kind of thing. There were other restrictions on marriage back in those days, too. I am told a story of one of my other great-grandmothers whose name was Rebecca. And she was in love with somebody, but she was not allowed to marry him because his mother's name was also Rebecca. And I'm not sure why. It might be a superstition, but if anyone knows why, maybe you can let me know afterwards. But as for me, there wasn't a lot of pressure growing up to marry somebody Jewish, although I think it might have been maybe a preference of my parents. When I would date somebody, my mom, she would kind of slip in that, is he Jewish? And if he wasn't, it was okay. But I think a lot of you know the story of when I went to work in Yellowstone and I met one of the only other Jews working there, and we ended up dating briefly. And we stayed friends, and then a couple years later, I heard from him, and he was doing some genealogy, and turned out we're third cousins. I don't think that's exactly what my mom would have had in mind when she was thinking of me dating or marrying a Jew, but in the shtetl days, it wasn't that uncommon to marry your third cousin or even your first cousin. And as I was saying, I have felt some pressure to settle down, and I think it's more from society than anything else. I also think that the women in my family really want me to be happy. And the way that they know, or one of the main ways that they know to be happy, is to get married. And I do want partnership in my life. Although, I'm almost 33, and back in the day, I would be way, way old. But almost an alta caca, she said, an old person. But, luckily things have changed, at least in some ways. So this is a song that I wrote in response to all of this pressure. Mama, I am restless. I sit around all day, waiting for some wrangler to come take me away. Would it be such a sin if I were to stray from the promised path you have laid? Mama, I am tired of doing what I'm told. Why you all so worried that soon I'll be too old? I'm saving all the time that so many have sold. There's no room for another half, 'cause I am whole. I've been trapped inside this picket fence too long, but a drifting spirit never can be tamed. I have purpose past a rocking chair, beyond the hurts. I will run with wild buffalo and fly with summer birds. I will run with wild buffalo and fly with summer birds. Mama, I am sorry this isn't what you dreamed. A rebel daughter wandering, no man or family, yet somehow still surviving on her own 2 feet, living life for no one else but me. Mama, you were married before you turned 18. I know you can't stand fighting. Would you do it differently? Mama, Mama, times are turning. How can you disagree? We have every right to be free. I've been trapped inside this picket fence too long, but adrift in spirit never can be tamed. I have purpose past a rocking chair, beyond the herds. I will run with wild buffalo and fly with summer birds. I will run with wild buffalo and fly with summer birds. I have no debt, I have no duty, no one to obey. So I'm off to roam the valleys and the plains. I am not somebody's property to claim. I'm trapped inside this picket fence too long, but adrift in spirit never can be tamed. I have purpose past a rocking chair, beyond the herds. I will run with wild buffalo and fly with summer birds. I will run with wild buffalo and fly with summer birds. Thank you. Yeah, that's an original. And that one is released. There's a music video for it, and oh yeah. My grandmother Evelyn Eichmann, she loved to feed people. And it's really no secret that Jewish mothers and grandmothers like to do that. Feed. Yes, feed. I would walk in and she would say, "Hi, what do you want to eat?" There's bagels, there's lox, there's, everything, a whole spread. And, sometimes we'd be like, "Oh, we're not hungry." Big mistake. You don't go to your grandmother's house after you just ate. You gotta go hungry, because she will not take no for an answer. She would, we would go and we learned not to go hungry. And we would go and we'd have all the spread, and then halfway through eating, she would say, "Get some more, fill your plate." But my plate's half full. "Get some more, eat." And, I know it's a stereotype, but she did say, "You're too skinny." And it's, what? Oh, she lived in Montreal, and she died a few years ago. She also lived till she was 95. Essen, yeah, eat. And right up until she died, when she was on her deathbed, my Uncle Harvey was there with her, and she said to Harvey, come close. And she said, "After my funeral, don't forget to feed the mourners." So right up until the end of her life, she wanted to make sure that everyone was fed. And I just love this about our culture, because in our sort of mainstream secular culture, food is demonized. We're taught to fear food. Food is moralized. There's good and there's bad, and we're taught don't eat too much. But the Jewish mother and grandmother, and Jewish women in general, I love to feed people, and I don't have children. It's sort of ingrained in us. And, if you think about where we come from, in the days of the shtetls when food was not as abundant, this was a way of showing love and just taking care of the kids, and it was a method of survival. She had to do everything she could to make sure her family didn't starve. And I think that in some ways this is just inherited in us, even though I think most of us, fortunately, don't live with food scarcity, most Jewish people. But I think that I think it's really a beautiful thing, and we can kind of maybe it can seem a little bit overbearing sometimes when we're when there's so much food, but I think it's very endearing too. So the next song is called Kartoffelsuppe mit Schwammen, which means potato soup with mushrooms. And there are also several characters. There's like the child or the children and the mom. And it's a conversation about what's for lunch. Was haben wir zu Mittag heint? Fragt die Jossele der Mammen. Mir wilzig essen, Mami, nu. Kartoffelsuppe mit Schwammen. Gehört a Chutzpe. Es will sich ihm Kartoffelsuppe mit Schwammen. Ich hab heim gekocht a Knoblauchsuppe. Es wird ausser sich nicht zusammen. Kartoffelsuppe will Jossele. Und die ganze Tochter Sossele. Gewirr ich immer hol ihm lechot lieb. Nu gib sie feine Speiselech. Wie in jener Reche heiselech. Und kein Groschen ist nicht da in Stub. Oi, und kein Groschen ist nicht da in Stub. Was haben wir zu Mittag heint? Rein in Stub kommt Sossel. Mir wilzig essen, Mami, nu. Oi, Pfefferlech mit Rossel. Gehört a Chutzpe. Pfefferlech mit Rossel wie mit Natten. Ich hab heimgekocht a Knoblauchsuppe. Es wird ausser den nicht Schatten. Kartoffelsuppe will Jossele. Pfefferlech mit Rossel, Sossele. Knoblauch mögen sie nicht lieb. Und Heilem, der Missnickel. Das ich gerade mit mir Finnickel. Und kein Groschen ist nicht da in Stub. Oi, und kein Groschen ist nicht da in Stub. Kartoffelsuppe will Jossele. Pfefferlech mit Rossel, Sossele. Bobbelech mit Kluskes Irnorgie. Nu kochst du feine Speiselech, wie in jener Reche heiselech. Und kein Groschen ist nicht da in Stub. Oi, Knoblauchsuppe hat euch mein Mann nicht lieb. Thank you. So I'm going to introduce you now to my mom, Beverly. She was funny and warm and spirited and generous. She also loved to feed. And she would save the last bite of something delicious or a special dessert for me or for my brother, and that was the ultimate expression of love. She said that she had to eat whatever her mom made growing up. There was no requests from each of the children like in that last song. Her mom just made one meal for everybody, and everybody had to eat it whether they liked it or not. My mom had 3 career choices growing up. She could be a teacher, a nurse, or a social worker. She chose social worker. And in her senior high school yearbook, there was sort of this little interview with the students. And the interview asked, "What is your dream career?" And my mom said, "A singer." My mom had dabbled a little bit in guitar and singing. And then the next question in the survey was, "What is your probable destination?" And she wrote, "Rockabye Baby," because she knew that she was expected to have a job that was more traditional for a woman in the time, and to be a mother. My mom did marry a doctor, my father, but not because of his occupation. She was working as a social worker in the same hospital where my dad was working. And she was passing by one of the hospital rooms one day where my dad was with a patient. And this patient was elderly and very frail. And this was a patient who the other doctors were not so gentle with and kind of weren't so nice to all the time. But she walked by and she looked into the room and she saw my dad holding this woman so tenderly and listening to her heart. And she says that's why she fell in love with him. My mom loved to brag about me. She would say to everybody, "Did you know that my daughter also sings opera?" And I would be like, "Mom, the plumber doesn't care." I was at a folk festival one year where I was in a songwriting competition. My mom, of course, is going around and trying to sell my CDs to everybody. And then right before the judges were about to announce the winners, she came over to me, my mom, and she said, "Amber, I just talked to one of the judges." Turns out I was one of the winners. My mom, she was just so proud of me. She was probably my biggest fan. Irving Berlin, he also had a Jewish mother. And his co-writer for this next song, Ted Snyder, I would bet that Ted Snyder had a Jewish mother too. This is a song from 1910 that Irving Berlin and Ted Snyder wrote. And there are references to famous people and managers in this song. If you aren't familiar with these names, you're not alone, because they were famous a very long time ago. You know, if the managers had only thought the same as Mother, who knows where my career would be today. There's no mistake that I can act. I'm talented, and that's a fact. I know because my mother told me so. She kept a house for actor folks and listened to their funny jokes. So now I guess my mother ought to know. But managers are awful dense. It seems to me they have no sense. I know my darling mother wouldn't lie. She thinks I'm better than the best, but managers think I'm a pest, and all they say is go somewhere and die. If the managers only thought the same as Mother, you'd bet I'd show them all a thing or three. They'd have starred me in The Thief, for it's Mother's firm belief Margaret Ellington could never steal like me. If the managers only took a tip from Mother, I'd be starring like a star was never starred. Leslie Carter and that bunch would be a child serving lunch if the managers only thought the same as Mom. My mother goes to all the shows. She knows what every woman knows. She knows Maude Adams knows a thing or two. But when she saw her in that play, she said to me that very day, "My child, she doesn't know as much as you." So I got busy with my pen and wrote to Charlie Frohman then. I asked him if he wouldn't star me quick. His answer nearly knocked me dead, for in his letter Charlie said, "I didn't even know that you were sick." If the managers only thought the same as Mother, I'd act like Sarah Bernhardt never did. Harry Miller would forget. Margaret Anglin, you bet. He would want me as his real supporting kid. If Frohman only took a tip from Mother, he would label me as Frohman's only star. Mrs. Fisk would take a drop to some Broadway candy shop if the managers only thought the same as Ma. Thank you. So I have one more song, and first I just want to say a huge thank you to Lori Rosalowski. It's so fun playing with you, Lori. Thank you. And thank you all for coming tonight. So I think that even though my mom was really proud of me, I think she at some times had a hard time with me pursuing a career in music. It's definitely unpredictable, and I think that she just really worried about me. I think that she got used to it eventually, and like I said, she was my biggest fan. And I think most of you know that my mom died in 2018. She was 62, and she died in the middle of the night, and we don't know what the cause was. About a month before she died, I was in Florida visiting my family, and my mom and I ended up having this heart-to-heart. I asked her if she was really proud of me for pursuing music, and at the time I was touring by myself. And I asked her if she was proud of me or if she was just waiting for me to get a real job. And she said, "No, I am really proud of you. I just want you to be happy, and I see that this makes you happy. So then that's what I want for you." And it was sort of this closure in this strange way that we didn't really know we were going to get. We certainly had tension between us at times in our relationship. There were certainly boundaries violated at times. But my mom and I really loved each other. I think that the Jewish mother's greatest trait is her love for her children. And my mom definitely lived up to that. She loved me and my brother more than anything. In the 20th century, with the mass immigration of Jews and people in Europe to North America, the Jewish mother was sort of seen as not quite fitting into this new life. The traits that were once revered, like in the first song, Yiddisha Mama, there's a lot of reverence there. But those traits were then seen as overbearing and neurotic, and the Jewish mother sort of became this caricature and the butt of jokes. Some historians say that the jokes about Jewish mothers stemmed from anti-Semitism and misogyny, and that portraying the Jewish mother as domineering and controlling and strong was a way of sort of sending this warning, this sort of subconscious warning that mothers and women might usurp the patriarchal authority. And from that lens, I say, girl power. Like, let's let those Jewish women be who they are. You know, I think that if we look at the Jewish mother in the context of where we came from as Jews, maybe we can appreciate these traits that were once really needed for survival, and then perhaps were seen as a hindrance to assimilation in North America. But we have this continuous Jewish question of tradition, maintaining our tradition and where we came from, and also assimilating and adapting and evolving. And that's not just for Jewish women or mothers, that's for all of us. When we think about all the persecution we've been through over many centuries and how we've had to adapt, and some Jews assimilate, some Jews lose their Jewish identity, and some of us find a way to balance it with our secular lives. But I am a big fan of authenticity, and it's really my hope that all of us can be our authentic selves and our full selves and the full expression of who we are as Jews, as women, as mothers. Because in a lot of cases, a Jewish mother stifles these qualities that are often seen as negative to try to fit in more. But along with stifling those qualities, she stifles her warmth, her expressiveness, her creativity, and that intense love that, yes, at times can seem overbearing. So I hope that we can kind of reframe some of these negative stereotypes about Jewish mothers and appreciate who they are and where they came from, and also while recognizing that, yes, boundaries are important. And I'm going to share the song that I wrote about my mom after she died, as I was processing her death and our relationship. about family and what that really means. How I always imagined it's supposed to be. Sometimes love doesn't come in a box tied with a bow, but you really loved me, I know. I tried to let you in, showed you all the worst. You knew my heart so well and how to make it hurt. But we stuck together even when it was tough. We weren't perfect, but maybe that's enough. Did I make you proud, though I took the winding road? I wish that you could see how far I've come. I don't know where you are, but there's no wall between us now. Forgive me for all I've ever done. 'Cause in the end, nothing's left but love. I've been thinking about family, looking back on the years. Summers at the cabin, laughter and tears, and the mess that's left when secrets overflow. But I still loved you, I want you to know. Did I make you proud, though I took the winding road? I wish that you could see how far I've come. I don't know where you are, but there's no wall between us now. I forgive everything you've done. 'Cause in the end, nothing's left but love. One last hug in the driveway, then you waved goodbye. Neither one of us knew it would be the last time. And you slipped away so gently in the night, with so much unanswered, I will never know why. Did I make you proud, though I took the winding road? I wish that you could see how far I've come. I don't know where you are, but there's no wall between us now. Forgive me for all I haven't done. 'Cause in the end, nothing's left but love. In the end, nothing's left but love. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Lori. If you'd like to stay a little, I mean, you're welcome to stay as long as you want. There's a little sheet of questions on your chairs that I invite you to chat about with kind of whoever you want, or, you know, maybe who you're sitting with, or maybe form some groups. The questions are, you know, just for discussion and processing, and to, you know, share, for you to have a chance to share now, maybe about somebody in your family that this has inspired or made you think of. I think there's a question about Like I asked earlier, a time when maybe you started over and started fresh and did something, went somewhere very unknown and uncertain. There's a question about balancing. How do you balance? How do you carry with you the traits and gifts of your ancestors while also evolving and adapting? So I invite you to choose any of those questions, one or all or a couple, and stay and chat and grab something else to drink if you'd like. And thank you again for coming. Thank you.